everybody. How are you? I'm Ann with Andale Homestead.
And I'm Sandy with Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona.
Hello, everyone. It is Casey over at Ormsby Farms.
And I'm Monica at Bland's Promised Land.
Oops,
Where'd I
she
go?
was.
I'm gone. Every time it changes, I disappear like magic. Well, it's Tuesday night, and that means we're hanging out with you guys talking about the episode that was just released yesterday. And I'm
Yes.
super excited because this was a part 2 of a two-parter. So before we get into all that, I'm super excited to be here with you guys. And I know
Yes.
I'm not just excited to be here with you three, but everybody in the chat.
That's
So
right.
speaking of the chat, Miss Ann, would you welcome all these beautiful people in to
I
see us?
absolutely would love to. And Ann, I never met an Ann I didn't love. Ann Philbeck, glad to see you. Sammy Jones, yay, you're a member of that is Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Congratulations, and you're gonna love it. Thank you for being here, Sammy Joe. Rebecca, touched by yarn, a blessing to all of us. So we're glad to have her here. Joe, fix it for you. Hey, Andale and panel, glad to have you here, Joey. Not for nothing, Homestead. Hey, everybody, don't you forget that thumbs up on your way in. That sounds good to me. Lynette Lawrence, hey, sweetheart, how you doing, honey? Glad to see you in here. Jesse's girl at Lazy Days Ahead always makes me want to sing that song. She says, hey, 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 hey. Lazy Days Ahead.
Jesse's girl.
Yep, that always runs through my head.
Jesse's girl.
Everybody, how you doing? Passion stacking. Hello, I'm so glad you're here, Jessica. I love you too. Erie Pages, good to see you. Shout out to Arizona. All right, U.S. Freedom 5. We're loving seeing you in here. I love you too, sweetheart. Glad to see you, sweetie. U.S. Freedom 5, Erie Pages, not for nothing, all these things. By the way, y'all, we all live in the little season of okay, all right then. And you know what? Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But we certainly do love the Lord and we ask for his protection from our tippy tippy top to our tippy tippy toes. And that's how we live our lives. So appreciate your ideas. Thank you for being here. So what we're talking about today is those things that go on in your homestead that you might not think about that might be expenses. So, Sandy, would you tell us a little bit about what's happening tonight, what we're going to be chatting about with our friends?
Well, this is part 2 of a great a, a great topic of what it really costs to have a homestead.
Mhm.
Sometimes we don't break it down. Either you're already on a homestead and you don't realize how much it costs and how much money you're bringing in, or you that's a goal. You want to be a homesteader. And
That's
so last week and then this week we are talking about the true costs of a homestead.
right.
Now,
Yes.
Casey, when you think of that idea, what's the first thing that pops in your head?
Well, let me tell you, because most of y'all know, and most subscribers that have followed me know that I have moved from my 10-acre homestead to a 1-acre homestead, and a lot of things changed and got kerbuffled in that move. And I didn't realize how expensive stuff was, not just for homesteading, but in general, until I had to grocery shop today for stuff that I have not grocery shopped for, because I grew my own seeds, because I grew my own plants. I did all these things. I went to the grocery store and I'm like, wait, it's $3 a pound for peppers? Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't fajitas anytime soon. It's a lot. And when you go into a homestead, I think a lot of people think you're going to be living off the land and everything's going to be free. And it's just going to be a perfect little house on the prairie, Laura Ingalls Wilder kind of moment. Listen, all that is great, and it is. Homesteading is wonderful, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into that homestead before. Your money that costs to put your garden together, your canning supplies before you even can start canning.
Right.
That you have to think about, and it pays off over time. We've talked about on both of the episodes, last week's episode and this week's episode, ROI. We can give a good old shout out to Eric Bland for that, because you have to think, is this project going to bring back my homestead money? Throw it out there. I want chickens. My name's Ann Dale. Me and my husband Worth decided we wanted chickens. Okay, well, Ann Dale and Worth have to put out this amount of money to get those chickens. Is it going to either give them joy money? Joy money makes them happy to look at it. It brings them joy.
Yeah.
Or is she able to sell the eggs to make money, or save money on paying for eggs where she is making money? Like, that's the thing you need to think about with, is it going to bring back money? Because if it's not, if it's just costing you hundreds of dollars to have it, you may want to rethink having that on your homestead. Monica, can I get an amen? Can I get it's not on the payroll anymore?
Yeah, that's exactly right. No, sorry, I'm organizing all my chats over here with all the 4 different chats, kind of making sure everything's set up in here. But no, I completely agree, and we try really hard to make sure everything is very heavily on the payroll here, and we do have some things that are for fun, but I still think sometimes having things that are for fun is important, because you need that, like you said, that joy money, right? That something that makes you happy, something that fills up your tank with the smiles that you need. Or when you're really having a cruddy day, you can walk out there and just give an emu a hug. I'm just saying, there's something about that stupid old emu that Eric was like, we should get emus, because if we get bit by that tick that makes it so we can't eat beef, we need to be able to eat red meat. Like, that's the thought process behind it.
Y'all better leave Bendy alone. Leave that girl alone.
So needless to say, she is just running around living her best life. But you know what? It's the sweetest thing. And sure gets on my nerves sometimes, but she's just sweet. And sometimes you need that kind of joy in your life, that happiness, not necessarily joy, but that happiness, to sit there and have fun with an animal that serves really no purpose. We tried to give her a snake today. Stay tuned for that short, because there's a little bitty snake crawling around. I said, ooh, let's see if she can do her job and like keep snakes at bay. No, she's not good at it. Spoiler alert, she ain't good at it.
A little too bougie for snakes. Like, hey, come around here. Let me show you my peeps.
Yeah. So anything else to add, Miss Sandy? What do you think about what we talked about?
Well, first, you may have to send your emu to emu school. And but for me, when I'm thinking about the cost of a homestead, I'm a suburban homesteader, which is a little bit different than Monica, who has acreage. But I really have to think to myself, what kind of level of self-sufficiency do I want? Mm-hmm. Now, it is great to have all these animals, your garden, all this stuff, but can you sustain that? Or would it be better to have a smaller garden and buy stuff at the farmer's market to support another farmer, another homesteader, so that you have more time? Because you can't just work. You have to have some family life and fun life and quiet time.
Right.
And so it's just a balance. And so I think that's important to say, okay, what level of self-sufficiency can I be? And I think that will help you on your homestead to know, I can do this, so I'm going to save this much money, or it's going to bring me this much money. But the other thing, I'm willing to go to a farmer's market and buy, or go to my neighbors and buy the eggs from them or beef from them. What about you, Ann?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, there are some things that I'm just not very good at. And at this point right now, today, I don't have to. As long as I know how to, I don't have to, because I still can potentially go out and purchase what I need for my homestead.
Right.
There are still stores open and there are still items on the shelves. And so that's a good thing. I do feel more secure in the knowledge of being able to know how to grow my own vegetables from seed, how to save the seeds, what to do in that process as far as food goes. The chickens, even working around a different way to be able to feed them. Rather than going and purchasing the food from the store, to understand that there's some things that I can grow and things that I can do, or that I might be able to change their diet a little bit to be able to have from the garden, that kind of thing. But it can be overwhelming. when you're trying to set up your homestead and you're thinking, oh my gosh, there's not enough hours in the day. I mean, if I want to live 100% off of what I have right here in this house, there ain't no Amazon, I'm gonna have to be getting to work. So that's my thoughts of things that how I try to understand that yes, if there is a way to save money by doing it myself that I enjoy, or
Yeah,
sometimes you don't enjoy it, but it's a necessary evil kind of thing. Some of our friends can't stand gardening, but they do it because they get the food. So
Well,
right.
I'm glad that also Sandy said, going to your neighbors to ask for this or knowing when is, I don't want to say easier, but it's just better for you in your homestead to purchase from another homesteader. Because
right.
ain't no shame in that game. I say that
Mhm.
many times on my video. Ain't no shame in that game. Listen, you can spend more money to find out that you're not good at raising cows than you could saving up and buying a whole cow from one of your friends and having the beef that you want
Right.
for 2 3 years. Um, think about what is best for your homestead. Is it just easier on your homestead for you to go and purchase meat somewhere else, or even to say, hey, you grow corn and it's wonderful, I grow eggs, how about we switch, kind of thing,
Right.
instead of
Right.
sectioning off all this space to grow the amount of corn that you would need, instead of
Mhm.
just saying, hey, I only need this much space for chickens to do eggs, let me just do that and barter, or even support another homestead and buy full cost from them. So Sandy, thanks for saying that, because a lot of big homesteaders don't. They just say, oh, you need it on your homestead, put it in, grow your homestead, but really it's just easier sometimes.
Yeah, we do need the knowledge. We do need
Mhm.
it,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
Um, and so, Monica, you looked like you were getting ready to jump in there and say something. I don't.
I was actually gonna ask everyone in the chat if what's the number one thing that they can think of, or just one thing that they can think of. If you're in the chat, I would love to see what you barter, if you barter with people, or if maybe you don't barter, maybe you're not in a homestead, maybe you live in an apartment or a small community where you don't really barter with people. But what's the one thing you do to support maybe a smaller business, or what you do for that? I mean, I'm interested because there's lots of ways people buy local or shop local or barter with people that maybe we don't think about, And so I was just interested, how do you do that? Because it gets our brain thinking of new ways. If we see something someone else is doing, it really can get our brain going and say, oh, you know what? I know somebody that does that. I'm not the greatest at that. Maybe I can reach out and do this because
That's
like, I'm not the greatest at growing certain vegetables, but I know that if my friend Carmen that lives just down the road from me is really good at it, you better believe I'm going to reach out to her and be like, girl, I know you have a
Right.
loofah there, because
yeah,
she grew loofahs like crazy a few years ago.
that's right.
So I know when I'm ready to grow loofahs, I could probably snag a couple little starts from her and trade her up for some stuff.
Yeah, that's
I know
right.
that if I need, certain turkeys or whatever, I can go to her and say, hey, do you want to swap eggs? Do you want to do this? Because
Mhm.
you can barter that way. And it's sometimes you don't think about it as bartering until you realize you've done it and you're like, what? I bartered. I did it. I swapped. So
Ginger from Not for Nothing Homestead says I bartered 3 dozen eggs for a quart jar of elderberry syrup with my neighbor. That's
I
Excellent.
love it.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's right. And
Love
Prime
it.
says my city garden is able to support 5 families.
That's
Is included.
amazing.
That's
Wow.
I
amazing.
That
love
is
that.
so cool. I love group community gardens.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And
And when
Yeah.
you look around, like I have a lot of berries that I grow. Strawberries, raspberries, gooseberries, all that kind of stuff. They're prolific, not just the berry part, but the plant themselves. And I literally, honest, I'm not exaggerating. I have literally given hundreds and hundreds of raspberry bushes to people because
oh,
they
wow.
just sucker outside where my parameters are. How many times when you have a strawberry bed, every few years you got to dig up some of those so that there's more space again. So if you're a homesteader or want to be a homesteader, who do you know that already has fruits and berries that you could exchange with? Or maybe they're willing if you just come over and dig them up. because a lot
That's
of times that happens.
hmm I even right across the street here. We live in a very small community. Well, I mean the neighborhood is probably large, but I live on kind of a loop. And the people that live directly across the street, she's an herbalist and has all kinds of
Excellent.
wonderful herbs. So I give her my eggs, and she shares with me with some of her herbs, and it's wonderful.
I'll say that every time Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch comes to visit, we barter, and usually she'll call me before and she'll be like, "Hey, got bread, got soap,"
Yeah, that's
and
right.
that usually means, "Hey, I'm bringing some beef."
Yes, we will trade for something.
Just
Yeah, but you know,
FYI, I don't have soap this year, Monica, so no need to call.
okay. Well,
I have
that's the
bread
thing.
though.
You probably don't realize how much you probably do barter or trade with people for
Right.
services or goods or whatever until you realize you just think, oh, well, I'm just being friendly and we're swapping things out. And then when you look back and you're like, oh, I kind of am bartering, you know? I think sometimes you
Right.
don't think of it in that term. Just like people
Hmm.
now, we use the term homestead all the time. It's the new N word, right? It's the new thing to say is that we're homesteaders. But really, in reality, we're just living the way our great grandparents or our grandparents
Right.
lived, right? We're
Right.
living a lifestyle that is very normal for a lot of people. And we put a label on it because it makes us feel better, maybe. I don't know. Or it
Right.
makes us feel like a group. I don't know. But it gives us that label. But really that label wasn't even a label until we made it something, right? So yeah, I think that
Right.
that's yeah,
That's right.
something to be
That's
said for that.
Yeah. It's interesting that, you know, I like to break things down. And the people in our panel, they know I make lists, I break things down, I look at um, what's my return on my investment all the time. You know,
Mhm.
is it worth me doing that? If it's worth me doing it just because I love to do it, that's one thing. But you can't do that on everything on your homestead.
Right.
You won't survive on your homestead if you're doing that. But just pick and choose. Okay, this item, these chickens, I'm going to break it down. I have um, chickens. I have eggs, so I can sell the eggs. I can incubate the eggs, and I can sell baby chicks. I can sell the chickens when they get a little bit older and they're almost ready to start laying, because people will pay big bucks for that because they
Right.
don't want to have to go through that process. Um, then if it's a meat bird, I can do the whole processing of it. I could do a class on how to do that. There's just so many things if you break it down on what you can really um, quantify your homestead, I guess.
That's true. That's very true.
And I'll say I'm right there with Sandy about lists. We always joke because in our podcast, it's like the bottom half here, as y'all see it. The bottom half of the screen, we're listers. The top half are the pretty princesses. No,
Oh,
I will say they both do lists. I think Monica always says she does a list, but it disappears. I'll blame it on Eric. Eric takes it. But no,
Yeah,
I
the list gets lost somewhere
yeah.
in my brain.
yeah.
Okay.
I,
I
I
tried to
have
help you, friend, on that one. Um,
one
but
list.
no, I do a list only because I don't want to spend more money than I'm actually putting into that section of the homestead. Like
Hmm.
jokes about the $1 million egg, like you get chickens, and when you get your first egg, it's the $1 million egg.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm still in the red on the egg shack. I
You
can tell.
got to give it time and say, okay, I literally detail mine out. Like, okay, my batch of egg layers cost $15 a month in feed. That's one. They cost about $10 a month in those bougie little laying box thingies that you put at the bottom. The nesting box papers. They like that. I'm gonna let them live their best life and do it.
Okay.
They're about $25 a month in the red.
Okay.
Now maybe I'll buy some treats. Maybe I won't. But as long as they can make me $25 in egg costs,
Yeah.
then they get to stay living at Ormsby Farm. If not, they may have to go live at a different farm or meet Jesus, one of them.
Well,
I,
yeah.
I
I
love
don't.
my chickens. I know you do too, Aaron, but I can afford to just spin, and they're just
Absolutely.
living their best life off of the bottom cost of
Well, see,
casing.
that's what makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It makes sense. The ROI, what is that called again, Monica? The
Return on investment.
return
So,
on investment.
so my 13-year-old has basically started up this fancy chicken business. You know, the little tiny like bantam chickens with the little fancy feet, and some of them have the frizzle feathers and whatever. So he's got his hatching area over here, and he's hatching out eggs as he's raising these beautiful like fancy chickens. And he's got like 4 days or 5 days left on him. He told me today, he's like, Mom, just so you know, I have about 4 days left till hatch day. I'm gonna be asking $20 a baby. And I was like, excuse me? Who do we have? Who do we have as a waiting list? He's like, well, I'm just trying to get my investment back because I've already spent way too much money on these laying birds for them not to give me babies, and I need to have that return. And I was like, okay, you're your father's child, because he literally just turned 13 like 2 months ago, and I'm all like, oh my gosh, cute little babies. And now he's like, we need to sell them as soon as they're hatched because we need to get them back. So
Okay.
that's a great way to be thinking
It
is
is.
how soon will I get my return on this investment that I've put out? He knows he's put out approximately, $60 in things. And, he was able to scrounge and use cages that we had. He didn't spend all his money, but he's been buying feed specifically for these little fancy pants. And, he does special things. And so, yeah, I think that, he's very focused on his return because
Well, that's
he might only have 8 chickens little chicks. And he said, if I have 8 chicks hatch, I need to make sure that I get $20 a piece. That way I have a profit, and then I can continue to hatch more out for the season. I'm like, you go do you, baby.
that's right.
Apparently I'm a salesperson because I have social media and he does not. So
There you go. Okay, so if anybody wants
if
some
you're in the Texas and Dallas area and you want fancy chickens,
I'm telling you, bantams here in Georgia. Now I don't know anywhere else, but I have 2 bantams. Their eggs for hatching, especially if they're 100% purebred
they
bantam.
are.
Some people just enjoy small eggs.
Yeah.
I guess it's little people because I don't. I don't really enjoy little eggs. I love Coco and Midnight, but I'm like, once they meet Jesus, like as old age, I'm not doing any more bantams.
Yeah.
Because their eggs are tiny. They're so cute, but you can't even get a fried egg sandwich off of that.
Can you imagine how cute they're going to be though for your niece's first Easter next year?
Oh yeah.
Tar listens. Don't give her any
The little mini
ideas.
bantam eggs and the little mini Easter baskets for the babies. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
That's gonna
great, Tara. Start planning it for me. I'll get it together.
You better have them bantams for next Easter. Don't you dare be getting rid of those bantams before next Easter.
I want her to sit by some Americana eggs too. The really pretty, like lime green or baby blue eggs.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah.
And what kind of chickens do you have?
Huh?
What kind of chickens, like what color eggs do you usually get?
I have barnyard chickens, but they're 2 of them are kind of tan. One is a darker brown, and the other is Easter egger. We get pretty bluish green, aqua kind of colored. It's pretty.
I'm telling you, the dark brown ones are popular too. A lot of people ask, like, "Do you have the dark brown eggs?"
The Moran eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're just spoiled. And we're going to be having some more. So whatever,
There you go.
okay.
Another thing I think we need to think about, because we were talking about Anne's castle that she has for a chicken coop.
Yes.
And she always jokes about that, how long it's going to take before she gets a return on her chickens because of that. But the other thing you have to look at is if Anne and her husband decided they wanted to move, how much value does that beautiful coop have too?
Right.
Because I say this all the time, buildings are gold on a homestead.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you have to look at things in a lot of different, outside that box of what you really thought, oh, this is, I'm not getting my return on my investment. But sometimes you got to think about it different ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how we did when Worth built it. He built it in case I got over my liking of chickens and he didn't care for them at all. So we could have a shed that would be a storage building. And he
Mhm.
built it for that. So the girls, I don't think we'll ever get over that. They're our little, we even allowed them in the garden today. So
Ooh.
they had a little special treat. Where do we get our coops now, Lynette? We built ours. Went to Lowe's and were very overwhelmed with all of the different choices that you have of wood and lumber and various things. Casey, where did you get yours?
At the new homestead, the Amazon.
Hmm.
We bought some sheds that were absolutely awful, and I would never ever recommend them to anybody. And we put them inside of a dog kennel run, and the chickens love that. So
Okay.
basically, we just looked for shed, run, and they'd be good. So the Amazon for me. What about you, Sandy?
I love
Well,
Sandy's.
my one that I did a video a few years ago was just out of pallets and some old picket fence. And
Mhm.
we had that for quite a while. But this year, when we get our chickens, because I live in two different places, and so my one good friend, she lets me have five chickens every summer, and then I give them back to her. But I did buy a brand new a new area in my yard for my
Ooh,
chickens this year, and I got it at Tractor Supply. They had
okay.
they had a
Oh,
great deal one, and it was almost half off, and so they'll have this beautiful little house to live in.
I love
when do you get yours? When do you get your chickens or your rental chickens?
Oh, as soon as I get back, I just
Oh, so when
tell
you
her,
go to Wyoming, good. Okay.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because I can't have them in Arizona. It's not a thing that they'll let us.
Oh
Yeah,
darn,
and it's really, really hot. And
Monica.
yeah, Monica, how about your chicken houses?
Yeah, we just got them from a person that was giving them away for free on the marketplace. And it's like some slabs of some plywood that people put together to make four-sided structure with the roof.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
like
It
we're like
works,
the
right?
redneck, like just slapping it together. And the door has been busted out at the bottom. So at nighttime we just like shove it there. And by the morning, there's like one rooster that like lifts his foot and kicks it open, and then they all walk out. That's our automatic door. That's how we do it. I mean, if I had cameras in there, he would be karate chopping it. He'd be like, "Ah," and then he pushes it out, and then they just walk out. They do whatever they want. So we have the jank coop that needs to be repaired. So if you see any of our
Okay.
videos, you'll see it. It's pretty janky, but yeah, we gotta do what we gotta do.
So we have four different ways of getting the same thing
Yeah.
accomplished. And I
Right.
can my chickens don't lay a single egg more than your chickens do in your janky chicken house than they do in the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
So in
And
our
But
that,
they lay
that
them everywhere else. They like to lay them other places because they're like, we ain't laying in there. It's nasty.
well, I was gonna say, and that's a good point, Anne, is that you can get eggs with any as long as you have a roof over their head and
Mhm.
3-ish walls. And then Monica says, no, they lay everywhere else but here.
They will lay in
Shut
there
up my comment.
sometimes, but I think honestly, they'll lay anywhere you give them a safe place. And I think that's the key,
Right.
safe. Because the reason why mine don't lay in there anymore, and after the rooster kicks open their door in the morning, is because in the morning, after, yes, they can be found at Facebook Marketplace. After the door gets kicked down, my blue heeler Titus will walk in there like he owns the place, sniff around and take his choice of whatever eggs may have been laid. And then he will carry
Oh.
them out, and then the dogs will share the eggs. So my chickens have wised up and they're like, we ain't laying in those boxes because the dogs are getting them. So now they lay everywhere but where they're supposed to lay. But rest assured, they do lay eggs. We just haven't found them yet. 'Tis the season
Easter egg hunting for you, honey. They be
every day.
hunting eggs every day. Well, everyone, it is 31 minutes, and we're usually
Wow.
our 30-minute time. Didn't that go quickly?
Yes.
So fast. And we appreciate everybody being here so very much. If you would like to please let me know what's going on and let all of us know in your comments if there's a particular subject or a question that you have
Mhm.
about anything about growing or homesteading or herbs or anything. We would love to know and we can start a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
We did say as well, and some point in the future, we're going to do one on canning, and we can maybe have a couple of different kinds of canners, but we want to show the electric canner and how that process goes. So that's something that won't be too far ahead. But in the meantime, thank you all for coming to Hey Y'all Hey radio show. We do appreciate you. And we'll talk to you soon. Don't forget, check us out Monday. And we'll be back next Tuesday. See you on the next video. Bye bye now. Bye, y'all. Bye.
Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Around the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.